Okay guys, so we are going to start a website from scratch. Or a web page from scratch rather. So when we go into Repl.it, and by the way, if you want to just get to Repl.it and you don't know how to do it, so you say Replit, and you click on it right here. I am obviously logged in automatically, but you should see a way to log in right here. Remember, you already signed up, so you can log in with the G, or it looks like mine was automatically added there right here. Okay, so you get to this space. Now you can either press this plus key to make a new REPL, or you can make a new REPL here. And I am choosing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it gives me an automatic name right here. If I wanted to change the name, I could. Okay, so everything else I'm going to keep as it is. And let's go over what you see when you get started. So first of all, there are files that are automatically added here. Something called index.html, something that's called script.js, and something called style.css. We are going to learn about HTML first, then CSS, and then JavaScript. Okay, so these files, you can click on them and see like what's in them. Together, HTML creates the items on the page. The CSS file creates the style. I can add color there. I can change the fonts. I can change like the way the fonts look on a page. I can change the spacing in CSS. And JavaScript adds interactivity. So if I had a button that I had on the web page, I can add some JavaScript into it so that when I click the button, it like went to another page, or changed the look of the actual web page. We're going to do that a little bit later. That's really fun to do. But first of all, the index, when I click over here, the index.html page is right here, or the file is right here. And by the way, all three of these, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, these make up the backbone of any web page. Okay, so this web page right now, this Repl.it web page, this run button, as I hover over it, there's a style element in CSS that tells it to turn green. That it's white to begin with, and it turns green, and then the text turns white. I can show you how to do that. It's really fun. When I click on the button, it actually makes the preview show up right here. Well, nothing's there, but it would make the preview show up right here. That's JavaScript. So even this web page that is running the program for us, it also has all of these elements on it. Okay, so when I click on the HTML file, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Okay, and it's what we use to create a web page, right? So behind every web page, you have coding that looks like this. Okay. Now let's go over a couple of things. Now, first of all, when you get to this area, the best thing for you to do is kind of make your space the way you want it to be. So I don't always like seeing these files, especially if I'm not clicking into them frequently. So I can collapse this panel here by clicking here, and it draws it back. Okay. I also don't always love to see the preview right next to the page. It doesn't always work well. So I can click this and drag it over here. And then actually before I do that, what I want to do is I want to click this button right here where it says open a new tab. And right now nothing's on the page, but I'd rather see the preview on a whole tab page than right next to it, because sometimes that doesn't really work. So, and by the way, it is a little bit better to use Chrome in this than Chrome than Safari or Firefox. Just runs better on Chrome, this web page. Okay, so here is my HTML. Now, every HTML document starts with, it always starts with doc type HTML. This right here, we've seen this before in mathematics. It looks like a less than symbol and a greater than symbol. Every programming language has its own type of bracket. HTML markup language uses these like angled brackets, okay? It's like you can see them all throughout. That's how it indicates the beginning and ending of something. So it always starts with this amount of code is called a boilerplate. It's just something that like the file always starts with. Okay, so let's break it down. Notice that you have these angle brackets where it says HTML here, and then you have, when you click on it, you see there's one at the very bottom that looks almost identical, except you have this slash right here. Okay, this is called an opening tag, and this is called a closing tag. Essentially, it's creating a box. Okay, so what is in between the HTML opening and closing tag is all of this right here. Okay, so HTML, like this, the entire web page is everything that's here. Okay, now the web page itself is made up of two sections. It's made up of a head. The head opens here and it closes here. Again, we can see where it says head right here, and then it says slash head, so it opens here, closes here. And then there's a body right here, opens here, closes here. Okay, this is what's inside the head. Well, the head contains anything that we need to use to style the web page that we're not actually going to see. We don't see these words on the web page. So everything that we put in between the opening and closing head tag is just a lot of information that we need as the page loads up on somebody else's computer that doesn't necessarily show on the page. So for instance, this meta character set, UTF-8, this is a way of saying that it uses a universal character set, which includes English letters, it includes numbers, it includes emojis and symbols. So it's saying that we're going to load this character set called UTF-8. This right here gives it some information about how it's going to be viewed. So it tells the website as it loads up that it is going to use the width of the web page should be the width of the device. So basically it allows this web page right here that you're going to create to open up well on any device, right? So it's not like it opens up on your phone and then you have to like scroll over to see the end of it. That's really annoying if you've ever had to do that. So it's just a little bit of code that says, okay, whenever this web page is open, set the width of the page to equal whatever the device width is. Okay. This right here, the title, that's actually the name that shows up right here on the tab. So I could change it to say, lesson 1, or I could say, intro to HTML. Maybe that's a better name for it. Okay. So, and when I refresh this, you'll see the tab changes there. Okay, the name of the tab. This right here is just linking to different, the style.css. This is saying linked, there's a couple of links we need. We need the link, which is the name of the file that's right here. That's going to be where you get the style. And this other piece of code is going to be something else about the style. I'm not actually quite sure. Okay, so the head ends, and then anything that you want written on the page is going to be inside the body of the page, right? So I am going to open up the body so there's more space in the body. So I'm going to go at the end of line 9, and I'm just going to press enter a couple of times. Okay. This script right here, this is something that we don't need for a while. You want to keep it there, but we're not going to need it. One common mistake is that students will often start typing like underneath the closing HTML tag, and that it will show up on the page. The things that you add will show up on the page, but it will end up being kind of strange and some things won't work well. So you really want to make sure that anything you add onto a web page is in between the opening body tag and the closing body tag, and you just want to push that script tag below. That's going to be your JavaScript. Later on we'll deal with that. So the first thing you want to add to your web page is a heading tag. Now heading tags are like titles. Okay, so I'm going to do the opening and closing angle bracket and put H1 in between, right? And then I'll say title 1 here. Okay, and then you're going to do a closing bracket, and notice that it's trying to auto fill this for me. So I can click here and it will fill for me. When I refresh my page right here, it will say title 1. Now it's all, by default, it's all the way to the left side of my screen. It's not super interesting, but that's title 1. Okay, so I could put H2 is another heading that it recognizes, and I could say title 2. So maybe you have a subtitle. Oops. Right here. And then it wants to close it for me. If I press enter, so it can either click on that list with H2, or I can press enter or return and it will change it for me. Okay. So notice that title 2 is smaller than title 1. That's because H2 by default, the font size is smaller than H1. Okay. Well, I'm going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to paste it a couple more times and show you that I can change this to 3. I'll say title 3 and title 3 like that, and I'm going to refresh it. Okay, and you'll see that title 3 is smaller than title 2. Okay, so I went ahead and added some more titles here, so or more headings. So I have heading 4 up through heading 6. That's how many headings HTML recognizes. So if I go here and hit refresh, you'll see that it ends up being very, very teeny tiny when you get to title 6. Okay, so that is a way you can add a few titles. I typically really only use H1 and H2. I don't really ever go up to H6, but you can technically go up to H6. Now, let's say that you are trying to replicate something that looks like this, because the first project you guys are going to have is you're going to create like a menu for a restaurant. You're going to create a restaurant and have like a web page for that restaurant. Typically, like if we look at main dishes here, that would be an H1. The name of the plate would be an H2. And if you want to say a little bit more, you want a longer bit of text, we're actually going to use a tag called a paragraph tag to do that. So in order to do that, let me delete this. Like if I wanted to recreate that, I could say main dishes. Oops. And then I would say, I think chicken bulgogi was the first one. Like that. And if I wanted to write something that, let's see, what did they have? They had the ingredients, right? Onion, garlic, sesame oil. So let me start with that. So if I wanted to write the ingredients, like that, it's a longer bit of text, so I would use a paragraph tag. So let's see what happens when I do that. And I want to refresh the page. Okay, so you'd end up having like the main title and then a smaller title and then a longer, if it's like a whole list of something, or if it's a like in sentence format, you'd use a paragraph tag to do that. Okay, so we've gone over heading tags, we've gone over paragraph tags.